On the 20th of March 1995, doomsday cult Aum Shinrikyo released sarin gas onto the Tokyo Subway system. 14 people lost their lives in the attack, and over 6,000 were injured. Thousands of kilometres away, the Australian Federal Police received a call from a lawyer. The lawyer spoke for a family living on a remote sheep station in the Western Australian outback, who had heard the news of the attacks. Aum Shinrikyo had previously stayed at their property and had left some things behind. Aum Shinrikyo was founded in 1984 by Shoko Asahara, who began the group as a yoga and meditation class and grew it into a broader spiritual movement, borrowing elements from Buddhism, Hinduism, and Christianity. Asahara was not mentally balanced. He told followers that he possessed the ability to give them spiritual powers. He also claimed to have been visited by the Hindu god of destruction Shiva and foresaw a global conflict that would lead to the end of all things. In Asahara's mind, non-cultists could only find salvation from the apocalypse through death at the hands of Aum Shinrikyo. After attaining the status of official religion from the government, Aum's finances and membership grew to unprecedented levels. Encouraged by the swell in followers, Asahara and his inner circle looked towards increasing the cult's political powers through election to the Japanese parliament. They were ultimately unsuccessful. After all other methods failed to achieve their goals, Asahara and his advisors decided that their only option was mass murder. Aum increased their chemical weapons research, but felt much could be gained by conducting experiments elsewhere, so they decided to make a trip to Australia. Western Australia's Leonora region is isolated. Over 700 kilometres away from Perth, the few people who call the area home are well aware of its desolation. Banjuan Sheep Station in the Leonora provide the perfect cover for Asahara and his followers to research weapons of mass destruction. Though few outsiders glimpsed Aum in Australia, those who did see the group felt that something was a little peculiar about them, and all of them agreed that Aum had no interest in running a sheep station. Locals who spotted cult members recounted behaviour that was both antisocial and bizarre. Cultists were seen dressed in thick protective clothing, regardless of the weather. Some eyewitnesses stated that they saw Aum members using scissors to cut grass. Others observed them standing on their heads while meditating. One community member delivered several barrels of hydrochloric acid to Aum's Banjuan base. Small amounts of the acid are appropriate for pool cleaning, though there was no pool at Banjuan. When the AFP investigated Banjuan, they found an abandoned kitchen that the cult had converted into a makeshift lab. Aum had also left behind glassware, computers, Bunsen burners, and documents which all suggested various chemical experiments had taken place. Analysis of soil samples scraped from a drain in the lab found traces of sarin. Further evidence of chemical weapons tests was discovered in the remains of dead sheep, left to decay in the sun. A group of 24 sheep had been herded together in a small space and died unnatural deaths. Samples from the sheep were analysed, and the results showed signs of sarin. After this revelation, investigators buried the sheep remains. Aum Shinrikyo's ambitions extended outside the manufacture of chemical weapons and into the nuclear variety. During their time at Banjuan, the group acquired mineral exploration licenses, preventing outsiders from entering the property. These licenses also opened up the possibility of extracting uranium, a key component for creating nuclear weapons. Aum also rented an excavator and used it at the station during their search for uranium. The investigation at Banjuan formed part of a joint effort with US and Japanese authorities against Aum Shinrikyo. Evidence gathered by the task force led to the arrest of many cult members who would go on trial for their involvement in the Tokyo Subway Attack. In July 2018, after many years on death row, Asahara and 12 other Aum Shinrikyo members were executed for committing mass murder. The Aum Shinrikyo cult still exists today under the new name of Aleph, with a drastically depleted membership and under heavy scrutiny by Japanese authorities and the public. While unabandoned their Australian operations may be, the Doomsday Cult's actions still leave a mark today. The present-day occupants of Banjuan operate it as a cattle station, although many a seasoned worker is scared away once they learn of its troubled past.